So thank you for joining us today, Angie. I'm excited to have you come speak at our event coming up next month. Maybe you could start off by just introducing yourself and talk about your role at Navco and what Navco does.
Sure. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're at. Navco is a security integrator. We're located up in Orange County, California. And I have been with the company now 16 years, which for me is with our company, I'm actually a newbie, believe it or not. We have technicians that have been with us over 40 years, which, we could talk through later, the evolution of technology from 40 years ago to today. So very interesting. But I run the national sales team. I've evolved from business development, director of marketing, VP of the West to the EVP of sales. So I always tell people, they ask me to do something, I just say yes, and it works out okay for me. So, again, we were the largest independent security integrator. We're now probably the largest employee-owned security integrator. So we're an ESOP, which is exciting. The level of commitment and involvement from every one of our employees has been tremendous. So that's kind of Navco. Like I said, we sell video access, alarms, all commercial security. So any Starbucks or Chase or we joked about it, I think on our last time, Ken, Whataburger, In-N-Out. We do have In-N-Out as a customer now, though. It's funny story is before, I don't think we did. So, those kind of customers is where we tend to thrive in what we do and what we sell.
I think you pretty much covered the only things that are most important to me are, money over at Chase, great coffee or great drinks over at Starbucks, and then wonderful hamburgers at Whataburger or In-N-Out. So what else is there in life, right?
If you're going to sell something, you want to hang out there, right? So
right,
it's not
exactly.
a bad deal. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and to your point, I mean, you've been there for 16 plus years. The industry itself obviously is, a couple hundred years old or 150 years old. But in the years that you've been there, there's been a lot of changes in terms of, the type of solutions that you're offering. It's not just, armed guards, if you will. It's much more than that with biometrics and identification scanning. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the evolution of the industry.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I was just talking to one of our partners today about the change even on how we've sold. So, it's gone. We talk about my 40-year-old technician that's been with us for 40 years. He was doing reel-to-reel cameras, tube cameras, very basic. In the financial was really where security kind of was founded, because the financial industry is kind of where a camera side of it was founded. But we've definitely evolved over the years. As a matter of fact, you were talking about biometrics, Ken. Last week we had a call where they're now putting biometrics in one card. So it's literally an access card. It's kind of like when you get a new iPhone and you put your thumb on it and it records your thumbprint. You have to do it 3 different ways, or your face. It's very similar now with access cards on biometrics. You put your thumb on this card, and when you're going into a facility, you will use this card, but it will actually be recording your thumbprint when it goes in on the card. So stuff like that's coming out of evolution. The one thing too that, again, video, cloud, we were teasing earlier about everything being in the cloud. Security definitely has gone into the cloud because it allows multiple users across, a large footprint to access information. So the cloud has definitely been a big deal. A lot of people hear that word AWS, Amazon Web Services. They rule the world. And so that's been a big thing. The other thing is COVID for us. I think a big change has been a lot of security in what we would call multifamily scenarios. A lot of large complexes, a lot of people were home during COVID. So security became much more important, whether it was using access cards to get into gyms or, tightening some of the perimeters. My favorite line, Ken, I think I've used it with you too, is I'm in the right business for the wrong reasons. So, security is definitely needed these days. So, that's a good thing and a bad thing in some ways.
Well, so I'm curious, so as the industry has changed, so too has the way that, your customers are buying, and also I would imagine probably the way that your sales team has to sell, right? Has to position the value proposition out there, if you will. Can you talk a little bit about how your sales force is constructed, if you will, and any changes they've had to make in their selling habits?
Yeah, I think like we've talked about in the sense that Zoom is the world, right? And Microsoft Teams. It seems to me Teams is coming on strong. I think everybody likes to be in person. I think we all think as a salesperson, particularly, our strengths are being in front of people skills, rapport, etc. But I think what I've learned, and a lot of us have learned, you can still do that same scenario over video. I do believe you need to have face to face. Sometimes I think people turn off their camera and they try to do it with that great picture that we took, when we were maybe in a better situation. But I think the face to face, it allows you to make that connection. So I think we definitely do a lot more of that. But I am seeing the travel pick up. Certain locations. I'm going to Chicago tomorrow. So it was interesting in Chicago. Chicago has a total different feel than a California, where things are a little bit more locked down in Chicago than they are here. So being a salesperson, you're having to adjust, going to different markets with the new world that we live in on mandates and et cetera. I was even thinking we're taking customers to dinner tomorrow night, and it's vaccinated. You have to have a vaccine card. So you have to be thinking about, oh my gosh, when I invite customers, how does that work? That's a whole nother, something to think about.
Yeah. The kind of things that salespeople really don't want to have to worry about. I just want to know, can the customer come? Great. Let's take them to a nice place. And that's all you need to worry about. Forget all the administrative, kind of double checking, if you will, and background checking or vaccine checking.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So different. It's a lot different than, hey, here's my business card.
Right. Yeah.
Let's
exactly.
go to lunch. And
right.
So some of the evolution of that. And like I said, I think just really being creative on how we connect with people, how we do it. The old write a letter, getting in the mail is still the best thing I think people can do that they don't do. You and I both know. I used to tease in marketing that from time to time we wanted somebody to see something, we would do a 2-day express mail because nobody doesn't open their express mail or their FedEx Expresses. So a lot of times we would spend the extra money just to get that seen. There's something to be said. If you really want to get something in front of people, you got to get more creative than you used to. Like you said, things we took for granted.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. We all thought we'd be selling the same way for eons to come, and no one thought about any changes, obviously, as abrupt as COVID has been, of course. And to that point, have you had to kind of retrain some of your sales folks to be more effective on the phones and over Zoom versus the traditional face-to-face? How has that evolution taken hold?
Yeah, we really did. We spent a good 2 weeks just on prospecting and phone calls and follow up and a training program just on that. We hired a professional trainer to come in and do that, and it was very well received. And I think, for us, we're very fortunate. We had a record year in sales this year, and the thing is, and we've all had sales organizations, is that when you have a lot of really big producers and you have a lot of really low producers, and then you got in the middle. What we saw this year, which is showing us that we're making progress, is we have a lot of high producers and a lot of middle and very little low, meaning that our thresholds are bumping up. And so the healthiness of the business is getting better. But a lot of that is due to new customer business and new prospecting and referrals and things that I think people they're really working hard to bring that in differently. And believe it or not, COVID forced us into that, right?
Yeah,
because
very true.
You got to pick up the phone. If you're not comfortable on the phone, you're in trouble.
Right, exactly. Well, and the whole idea of trade shows, right? And relying on trade shows, for example, whether it's having a booth or being a sponsor or even being a speaker or even an attendee for that matter. But trade shows went away for 2 whole years, and they're starting to come back a little bit, but not to the same level that they were pre-COVID. And we have a lot of clients on our side that have asked us to help them bring in new, high-level marketing talent because they've had to really retool their entire marketing and lead generation strategy.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if some of the virtual trade shows, you and I probably know, do it better than others. We have a particular group that we deal with, and they've changed their format, very interactive, shorter time spans, great speakers, things like that keep people's attention versus the old. As a matter of fact, for us, normally a trade show we've done for 23 years. I have to remember because my son was, I was pregnant with my son when I went to the first one, but this year, for the first time, we decided not to get a booth because it's an in-person, and we sponsored the keynote speaker instead, because we felt like it was going to be more beneficial to do networking than stand at a booth. Right. Something we've never done. So it's like we said earlier, even on trade shows, virtually or in person, getting creative with it, changing up what you've done before. I think it helps, to really keep you moving forward.
I agree definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing the insights with us. We're looking forward to the event coming up for our Sales and Marketing Leadership Alliance. Thanks for being a speaker for us in March, and we'll talk to you then.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, thanks so much.